Welcome to Counterpoints. Happy Wednesday. Spring is in the air. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm good. We've got a big show. We're going to start talking about the surprise settlement that came yesterday afternoon in the Fox News case over defamation with Dominion. We're then going to talk about debt ceiling negotiations, which continue to be impossible. We're going to talk about Elon Musk's interview with Tucker Carlson. We're going to talk about a crazy story out of Oklahoma. We have some audio you're not going to want to miss. We're going to talk about Representative Jeff Jackson, who is all over TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Republican, who has quite a social media presence. I'm going to talk about.
It almost seems not real.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I have to always check, like, okay, this is not a.
It's a deep fake.
Yeah, this is not a deep fake of what you want a congressman to talk like. It actually is a congressman. Is that right?
Apparently. I'm going to talk about some developments in a stock ban that's now on the table in the Senate and the House. And Ryan, you've got some interesting audio for us as well.
Yes, Chris Sununu didn't realize the tape was running, and so we got some candid comments from him. The new Republican New Hampshire governor will play that. Lauren Windsor over at the Undercurrent, kind of secret audio specialist.
Yes.
And so we'll play some of that later, and we'll hear from Christian Parenti, who wrote a kind of buzzy piece from a left perspective, arguing that Trump is actually an anti-imperialist. Infuriated a lot of people on the left. We're going to have him kind of respond to some of the critiques of his piece since it has come out. But yes, the big news, the surprise settlement, and it's impossible to think about how Fox came to this decision without thinking it in kind of the Logan Roy voice as he's instructing Jerry to just sign the thing.
Yeah.
Logan Roy himself would have done better, probably, right? So what did they agree to? I think $787 billion plus...
million, almost a billion.
Sorry,
yeah.
Million. $787 million plus basically an admission that, and we can put this first element up, admission that some of the things that they said about Dominion were false, along with a couple of other acknowledgments.
Yeah, they say, we acknowledge the court's rulings, finding certain claims about Dominion to be false. The settlement reflects Fox's continued commitment to the highest journalistic standards. That's their statement when the settlement came out. And reporters had flocked to Wilmington, where the suit was set to be heard. It was delayed. Then it was delayed a couple of hours. Everyone's wondering what the heck is going on. It seemed like the only possible answer there would be a settlement, or the plausible answer would be a settlement, and indeed that's what happened around 4 p.m. yesterday. You have all of these reporters in Wilmington so eager. Brian Stelter actually had gotten a special contract with Vanity Fair to cover this trial, if that's any indication of how hot this was in the media. There was $1.6 billion defamation suit that ends up getting settled for $787 billion. No surprise.
Million again.
Million. God, we keep doing this.
That would be a lot of money.
I like how I corrected you the first time, and then I did the exact same thing. A source has also confirmed to Axios that Fox will not be required to give any apologies or retractions as part of that settlement deal.
So if we can put up the second element here, this is much of their statement. They said, quote, "We are pleased to have reached a settlement of our dispute with Dominion voting systems. We acknowledge the court's rulings finding certain claims about Dominion to be false." And you're right, that acknowledge is a key word there. Like, okay, the court did say this. We acknowledge that. This settlement reflects Fox's continued commitment to the highest journalistic standards. We are hopeful that our decision to resolve this dispute with Dominion amicably, instead of the acrimony of a divisive trial, allows the country to move forward from these issues. How sweet of them, isn't it?
You can see A3 if we put that up on the screen. You can, if you're watching, you can see there what that looks like. Now, there's a really interesting development, because when this settlement is announced, there's a fascinating announcement that comes from Smartmatic. Did you see this?
Yeah, A4 here.
This is a big deal. So Fox is not just being sued by Dominion. This is a statement that came out after the settlement from Smartmatic's lawyer. They're another voting software company, another voting booth company. Dominion's litigation exposed some of the misconduct and damage caused by Fox's disinformation campaign. Smartmatic will expose the rest. Smartmatic remains committed to clearing its name, recouping the significant damage done to the company, and holding Fox accountable for undermining democracy. All right, that's huge. And Slate says that this case, quote, they're quoting an analyst who says it, quote, appears to be the more dangerous of the two major cases against Fox. The other interesting thing is that this case is not super far along. So as Slate notes, all of that discovery that came out in the Dominion trial there's more discovery to come in the Smartmatic trial, most likely. So that's something to pay attention to because that means there could be more emails, more communications, more text messages. And that's partially why Fox settles in the Dominion case, is to at least, this is a good explanation for why they would decide to settle, is they don't want their executives taking the stand in an extremely public setting.
And for all the people who are sad that this trial is not going to go to trial, that this lawsuit is not going to go to trial, and are now hopeful that the Smartmatics one will go to trial and that Fox will probably finally get its public comeuppance in the courtroom, I would caution people to remember that these are businesses, these are companies. And so you are investing your hope in the salvation of democracy into a business. And the business, I would say, is playing off of your sensitivities on this question. In their quote, when they say, Smartmatic remains committed to clearing and holding Fox accountable for undermining democracy. Like they know exactly who they're talking to. They're riling up the public to get them to support this clause, this claim, which then puts more pressure on Fox to then offer a settlement that's as big as the one that they gave to Dominion. And this, in the end, these are businesses.
Yeah.
And so if Fox comes with hundreds of millions of dollars, which is, it's $800 million is multiples of what Dominion is even worth.
Yeah.
And so for an executive to get that kind of offer, they're just not going to take that to court. Like they cannot be your saviors. They cannot be your champions. Now, I do think people are misunderstanding and underestimating how big of a settlement this is one of the biggest defamation settlements. It is the biggest. In American history, the other one was 177 million. Right. So we're talking about 787 million. There's an incredible picture from Alex Wong at Getty Images of the Dominion attorneys walking out of the courthouse in Wilmington with the biggest smiles on their faces you have ever seen. It's like, because doing the math, what's a third of 787?
Right.
Yeah.
To your point, I mean, this is huge. And to your point, there's no company that can afford $2 billion. Let's say they end up settling in a similar situation with Smartmatic. There's no company that is going to be able to comfortably afford $2 billion of defamation lawsuits. That is a chunk of Fox News' business. We're talking billions.
But they can uncomfortably afford it.
Yes,
they will survive. And I think
they'll survive. Yes.
I think there was some hope among some out there on the left that this would bury Fox News, that it would end Fox News. But you have to remember they had that hacking and wiretapping scandal in the UK about 10 years ago. You remember where a bunch of their tabloid journalists were basically wiretapping.
News Corps.
Yeah. News Corps. They had to put billions aside to prepare for ultimate verdicts and fines and other penalties. Putting billions aside for wrongdoing is a cost of doing business for global corporations.
Yes.
If anybody's seen Succession, they wouldn't be surprised that this is how you push ahead. You kind of ask you push ahead. You ask for forgiveness later, and if the forgiveness costs you a couple $1 billion, you pay that. But you're right that it's a lot of money. Yeah. It matters to them. Absolutely. I mean, $2 billion, well, $1 billion now, roughly 787 million. So I'm rounding up to $1 billion. But then if you add in a Smartmatic suit, it's going to be really hard for them basically to skirt this precedent. And I think that's one of the big things that comes out of yesterday is that if you're settling for 787 million in this case, you have another case that may be as serious, if not more serious, coming ahead. Did you just set a major precedent by settling that A, could invite more suits in the future, and B, makes it really hard to finagle out of the Smartmatic suit? And what's been the response in the kind of Fox world, as far as you understand it? Do they feel like, all right, we really kind of screwed up in the way that we allowed these wildly inaccurate things to be said about these companies in service of trying to kind of drain viewership away from Newsmax and OAN and these others? Or does Fox feel like, you know what, we were on the ropes, this was a fight for share of the viewership on the right, we had to do what we did, and we did it, and we don't regret it. It's unfortunate it's going to cost a couple $1 billion, but that's better than kind of getting gobbled up by these kind of neo-MAGA outlets.
Well, I think they were always overestimating the risk of getting gobbled up by the neo-MAGA outlets.
Yeah.
I will say, though, that you see it in the text messages, you see it in the email communications with Fox Corporate. And one thing I think some people don't fully see out in public is the tension between, although it does spill into like reports sometimes, the tension between corporate Fox and the opinion side. The news side, I think, is generally on the same page. At least it seems to me with the corporate side. But the opinion side and the corporate side, there should probably always be tension between journalists and the business people at any news outlet. But I think that tension has always existed and will probably continue to exist. You can imagine that Manhattan executives, even the most capitalistic ones, are not super happy to have to answer for, the things that, like the subjects that Tucker Carlson covers when they go to their cocktail parties.
Are there going to be any changes? Like, does this present an opportunity for a reckoning? Like, is there anybody who is responsible for defamation to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars getting onto their air?
I mean, I don't know, because this is mostly from hosts. I mean, they're talking about Jimmy Puro. So I don't know. And by the way, it would have been interesting as this case progressed, and maybe the Smartmatic one will be as well. Yeah, I think it should be more uncomfortable for the rest of the media than it was, because defamation charges do set really dangerous precedents. I'm not nearly like on the same page as a lot of conservatives who want to lower the threshold for what constitutes defamation. I hate defamation lawsuits because that's a great tool to wield against journalists. And so I think this case actually had some interesting ramifications had it gone forward that the media would have had to grapple with.
Right. As a journalist, you don't really like to see defamation suits, period. On the other hand, if you have certain folks in journalism just destroying the credibility of journalism, you do want some level of accountability without it being then weaponized against actual journalists who are just trying to get the truth out there. I have complicated feelings about it.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Sagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.